Well, everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the Xbox Series X and see how this specific, gaming console still holds up in 2023. Now, first things first, I want to state the Xbox consoles are very good consoles. I love these consoles so much. And I remember the first one I ever had that I bought or that I was kind of given was an Xbox 360. And that was a beautiful console. And with the Xbox One, I still think that one of my favorite looking consoles of all time, visually that looks beautiful, is the Xbox One S. And with the Xbox Series X, this was a very interesting approach from Microsoft. Now, I don't have to give you this whole entire interlude because the Xbox Series X has been out for many years now. But I remember, and I'm going to keep saying this and reminding people, I remember in 2020 when I was able to buy and pick up my Xbox Series X for the first time. And I remember when I was using it, I was thinking to myself, I really do think that the last generation of consoles, the Xbox One, One S, One X, and even the PlayStation 4, 4 Slim, and 4 Pro, those consoles are still probably going to be lasting in line for as long as this console is going to be available. And I was thinking to myself about the similarity between the Xbox Series X and the Xbox One X. Of course, the UI looked very similar, all these other things. Power-wise, this was a much more powerful console. But the way Microsoft has been approaching a lot of their cloud-based gaming, the way they've been, I think, trying to go through and eliminate the gaming system and just make it so it's all in the cloud and you can just buy these games all from there rather than even having a gaming console. The way Microsoft has been approaching this makes me think that if you still own one of those older consoles, you are still, almost 3 years later from this console's release, you are still in a very good situation. I don't think you're really missing out on too much. So that's kind of my little interlude. I think the Xbox Series X, though, is a very good console. You're going to have so much power within it, and I still think this thing is still completely worth buying for sure. Now, one thing and one of my gripes that I've still had since day one of buying this Xbox was I really do wish Microsoft put a USB-C port on the Xbox Series X. I do understand that they put it on the controller itself, but I would have loved to have seen a newer edition of these Xboxes with some sort of USB-C port. There's so much power behind those types of ports, and Microsoft knows that. They went ahead and, they did some other things here and there, like they put the USB-C port on the controller, but I would have loved to have seen them do it on their Xbox. If you look at the actual PlayStation 5s, those have USB-C ports. A ton of Microsoft products have USB-C ports as well. So I'm not too sure why they went down this approach. They could have just put one port on it, and I think that would have been more than enough in my opinion. But on the outside, the console still looks the same. Not much has changed there. It still looks very good. I think this console looks like it looks like a gaming PC basically. So I look at this console and I still like the way it looks. There's really not too much to hate on it from that standpoint in and of itself. So from the design, it definitely gets a thumbs up from me. Now on the front, you are getting that Xbox home button, so you can always just go and turn on your console. You're getting that disc tray right there too, which is really cool. And on the back, you are getting a very interesting type of styling. So you're getting these two exhaust fans on the outside, so you're able to go and kind of take the fan in and take the cold air out. You also do get another set of USB-A ports. So you get USB-A ports on top of each other on the back. You get the storage expansion port, which is really cool. You get this Ethernet port, you get this HDMI port, and you do get the standard AC adapter, so you can go and power this console up. Now, as I mentioned before, the way this console looks, a lot of people liked it. A lot of people may have not liked it too much. Personally, for me, I think this console looks great, and I don't really think there's a lot to complain about there. I mean, of course, it looks a little bit more blocky, but it does remind me a lot of the Xbox One X, and that was a very good looking console. And this one's a pretty good looking console too. I think the One S still looks better, to be honest, but definitely not a big deal for me at all. Now, another big thing with this type of console, for the most part, is with its future and the longevity of it. So for the last 3 years, I don't think there's been massive, crazy, controversies behind this console. I think for the majority of people out there, they've been totally fine with the way this console has been approached. There were a few things here and there, for the most part, that some people didn't like. I think, one thing that, that people didn't like was there was some, exhaust fan issues early on when this console first came out. But I think since then, for the majority of people out there, they haven't really been complaining about it too much, and I think that's totally fine as well. Now, another big thing with this console on the outside that has aged very well, I would say, is still the controller. So it's not necessarily tied to this console itself, but I've always felt like Microsoft with their Xbox controllers have been very good. Even though I like the PlayStation controllers too a lot, these controllers look very good. They still feel very good in the hand. And I do like, I don't want to keep hitting on it, but I do like how they put the USB-C port on this controller at the very least. I wish they just went ahead and just put it on the console as well, but this controller still feels very good. And I've seen a lot of people, hype up this controller a lot, and I do think it was kind of a good upgrade coming from the previous generation, but I'm really excited to see what they're going to do if they make the next one, what they're going to be doing with that specific controller. So that kind of covers it up from that perspective for the most part. Now, some other things to keep in mind, this console was very hard to go ahead and pick up for the last couple of years. Since this console first came out, probably for the last like 2 years, it's been pretty hard. But now this console, I would say, is a little bit easier to buy for the most part. So for, a lot of people out there, not only can you buy it as a standalone console, but you also have the ability of doing the Xbox All Access little package, which gives you the Xbox Series X controller. It brings you console as well. I don't even know why they mentioned the controller here, but they also give you 24 months of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. So that's a decent deal, especially if you're not planning on using this console for like the other 2 or 3 years. If you just kind of want to rent it, well, you have that capability right there, which I think is actually really awesome. So those are, again, massive things to keep in mind, that this console has been, a much easier console to buy for the most part. And they're available in the used market now too, which is really cool. So I'm really glad that's happening. Now, another thing to kind of keep in mind with this console, there's just so many things to keep in mind, is that the game selection of this console is still very high. You have a bunch of games that you can buy, and you have pretty much a massive array. I mean, you have the disc slot on this specific console, so it's backwards compatible with a bunch of different games, but also it's still a very, very powerful console. And just like how I thought in 2020 when I was picking up the Series X and I was making videos about it, I was thinking to myself, how much better can consoles get? And I still think to myself that's still the case, but looking forward, for the next 10 years, even if you still buy this console today, you are still going to have a very powerful kind of console, even like 5 to 10 years from now. Now, that's a long time from now, and I don't even know if that's going to be 100% true, but I look back at the original Xbox One, which came out about 10 years ago too, and although that's not a very powerful console, that's still a decent machine. I mean, that's still like, if you want to play your Xbox One games, you can always buy a used Xbox One for like $75 and just go ahead and buy a bunch of used games, and you have a bunch of games you can play from there. So overall, what I'll tell you is the Xbox Series X is completely worth it. This is a very good console. My only gripe, like I said, really the smallest one is like the USB-C port. That's like not even that big of a deal. But this console still has a bunch of power, and as consoles get better and better, there's like less and less things to complain about them. So I think for everyone out there, if you're planning on buying some sort of Xbox, this is a very good deal, or not a good deal, but if this is a very good option if you have the ability of doing so. But if you don't even have an Xbox and you're looking to kind of get into the market, you can always buy an Xbox Series S. That console is not that far off from this one. It's not as powerful, but it's still cheaper to buy than this one, and it's probably more available. You can probably get that one without having to wait as long than this one, but you can always buy an Xbox One as well. Like if you buy a 1S or a 1X and you're okay with using it for like another year or two, by all means go for it. As long as you don't want to play any current generation games, those gaming consoles have a massive array of selection you can choose from, and I think that would be a very, very smart thing you could kind of do as well. So in terms of that kind of covers it up there. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.